Hi, it's Leland Sklar here. I have to tell you, I am such a fan of Roger the Wild Child's show and have had the great fortune to be a guest on his show, which I look forward to doing again. That's what you wanted me to say, Roger, isn't it? I have a little something that I want to share with all of you. It's my book. Kind of weird, isn't it, seeing the two of us together?
Leland Sklar, personal friend of mine. I can't tell you, it's a quantum leap in a collection of shit, okay? This book is full of shit.
Leland, besides being a bad mofo as a bass player, is an author. This book is so badass. There's so many cool pictures. Anybody filled with, like, the middle finger.
Jeff Beck.
Yeah.
Charlie Watts.
I mean, come on.
Hi, I'm Lisa Loeb. And a lot of people have been asking me lately, what have you been reading over the last couple of years? Is this one? Everybody Loves Me by Leland Sklar. Look at this. I'm even in the book. Next to Kevin Bacon, that's 1 degree. Do yourself a favor. Get one of these or more.
Hi, this is Van Dyke Parks. You probably already know that. You know, a lot of people look at a book like this by the legendary Leland Sklar, Everybody Loves Me, and they go like to the back to see maybe they've been italicized, you know, included. I don't do that. No. I'm way beyond that. I just go to my page with the picture that says, Everybody Loves Me. That's me, Van Dyke Parks.
Hey, I'm Waddy Wachtel. I'm in a band called The Immediate Family. You might want to consider this worthless book by my dear brother Leland Sklar. And it's really hysterically great, and we'd love to have it. It's called Everybody Loves Me. If you can read, I don't know a lot of smart people anymore, but check it out. If you want to get a great present for people, go to lelandsklar'sbeard.com and order yourself a book.
Just get it, okay?
From coast to coast and broadcasting around the world. This is the Hollyweird edition of the Roger the Wild Child Show.
Let's get this party started! Ready, set, go!
On the air everywhere.
It's the Roger the Wild Child Show!
It's time for another kick-ass episode of the Roger the Wild Child Show with your host, Roger the Wild Child, along with his partner in crime, Hollywood hairdresser and musician Darren Sheff, plus the Hollyweird Report with entertainment gossip queen Ika Velli. Let's do this.
It's the Roger the Wild Child Show!
Hey, guess what? We are not that far away from Christmas, and let me tell you, we are here having some fun in December. And wherever you are in the world, welcome to the Roger the Wild Child Show. I am Roger the Wild Child, along with Darren Sheff, the feed mill guy. What's up, D?
How far away are we from Groundhog's Day? Do you know?
I do not know when Groundhog's
Day. Flag Day, just in case we miss it. Happy Groundhog's Day.
I don't pay attention to that. I don't pay attention to Groundhog's Day.
I don't either. I knew that would throw you off a little bit, but I thought, well, I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah. I mean, nobody's like, hey, yeah, don't forget Groundhog's Day or Flag Day. Well, Flag Day, you kind of
Flag Day, yeah.
We got Phil DeGrave. It's actually, his name is Phil Dan San Filippo.
Yeah.
So, Phil DeGrave.
He's in the house.
From San Diego.
Yeah, he's in the house today. And also DDA's checking in.
Yeah, DDA. Yeah, he's there.
DDA is here.
Yeah.
And also we've got Susie Vel Gennaro. Gennaro. I believe I pronounced that right.
Is it Suze or Susie?
Susie. Ike, is that your Susie? Yep. Okay, that's Ike's sponsor, Susie.
Susie. All right, Susie. There's the Susie.
And I probably botched her name up, but it's okay.
Well,
Sorry
she doesn't botch like cool clothing and cool things up like that or whatever.
Yeah.
Her association is. If she's with Ike, doesn't matter what she does. There's got to be something really happening going on there. We'll find
Don
out.
Swartz, Wild Child family. Hello, Don.
Hey, Don.
And Monica is here.
Monica, do you know Philip San Filippo? Do you know that guy? Todd's friend? from San Diego. Do you guys know each other? Anyway,
I don't know.
you
It
can
could be.
write-
It's a
put
small world sometimes. You just
that.
never
It's a
know.
small world after all.
So, Darren, so this is going to be our last show until we take a little hiatus until February. Well,
Hiatus.
not necessarily won't be our last show. Sunday is going to be our last show when we do our Roger the Wild Child show, Country Christmas, 3 hours of holiday bliss from all of our singer songwriters from the Nashville
Yeah.
show that will be coming up. We got 15 guests lined up. Plus,
That's cool.
our hosting team, we've got myself, you will be there. Since you helped me kick off the Nashville show this year. Also, Justin, Elise, and Baby Daisy. So there you go. So we'll all be hosting it and bringing in all this live performances.
Hosting and roasting. It'll be great.
It is. It'll be fun, of course. It's holiday time.
We do need to do a roast one of these days. Just get everybody down here to roast you, like those roasts that you used to see like all the killer guys do. Let's do like a roast. Like Ike's
Ike's like, yes,
crazy.
I want to do it. He's in the green room waiting. He's like,
yeah, could you
anxious to
imagine
get on
him
here.
roasting? You guys got to roast me. I would be the guy. I'd let you roast me. I
think we would roast each other. It would be just,
That's true.
No guests that night. Just everybody roasting each other.
Everybody
Right?
trying to do impressions of one another. That would be interesting.
So, any plans for the holiday break?
Yeah. I'm going away, and I'm gonna head over to Greenville, South Carolina. Never been there, but I hear it's a really beautiful historic area. Then I'm gonna head on down into St. Augustine, Florida. I love St. Augustine, the oldest city in America. If you haven't been there, you need to go there. It's really wild. It's like Europe.
Nice.
I'm not joking. And then, aren't you glad you asked me that so I can continue to tell you what I'm doing? You look so fascinated with what I'm doing. So anyway,
I am.
I know you're multitasking. I'm just giving you a hard time. So, and then, so we're just going to kind of, relax after the Nolensville Feed Mill 2-month, Thanksgiving and Christmas months, which are just the craziest months of the year.
Right.
So we're going to just do that. We're just going to chill out, and we got to do some business down there, which is fine, but it's easy business. So it's looking at real estate and, buying things to send back to my store. Fun stuff.
Fun stuff. Yes.
Fun. Tell you
the
that
Nolensville Feed Mill. You guys don't know.
NolensvilleFeedMill.com. You can also go to AmishCinnamonRolls.com. That'll take you there too. Isn't that something else? Plug that.
You've got the best pastries. I will tell you that for sure.
Fried pies for your thighs. That's what I tell the ladies. They come in.
All right, so let's go ahead and bring on our buddy Ike Velli with the Hollyweird report.
Are you ready for some celebrity sleaze?
Want to know who's doing who in Hollywood?
Our entertainment gossip queen has your 411 off stage and behind the cameras.
Behind the cameras.
And now, the Hollyweird report with Ike Velli.
What's up, Ike? How are you doing?
You? What? Not even a Christmas light on either of you. What the hell?
We are waiting for our Sunday holiday show.
You don't see all the Christmas lights in the background on me? Are you not seeing those?
Well,
and what about the background of the show? I mean, come on, look at all the lights of Hollywood. I mean, right there, you got the beaming light.
Just use your imagination. Just pretend. Remember when you were a kid? That's what you would do. You just pretend. Like, let's pretend like we're doing this. Like when you're 10 years old, you're like, everything's like, that's not real, but let's pretend like it is.
Everything is fake when we're little, right?
It is.
Are you excited that we're going to have Shadoe Stevens on the show tonight?
I am a huge fan, and I used to listen to him on America's Top 40. He's done it all. Radio, I mean, acting.
Hollywood Squares.
Yeah, he was on Hollywood Squares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
TV.
Voiceovers.
Well, I would love to do voiceovers, but I am so excited because we are celebrating the holidays, and I am observing my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Oh, wow!
Nice.
Yes, it's most important, and that's Suze is my designer.
I figured so, but that cool name, I was going to say, man, that's a designer right there.
Yeah, she did.
I'm from
an
Hollywood,
amazing
man.
piece for me about in my Christmas show. Amazing. It was the showstopper of the night. Completely, I came out as a Christmas tree, completely lit up.
That's great. I didn't look like a Christmas tree, but I was lit up for sure. No, I'm just kidding. I was not. Too old for that crap. I haven't done that in years. Cheers. Yeah, look at he's got his punch in there going. Cheers.
Yeah. I'm ready to dish the
High
dirt.
C.
Oh, yeah. Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
We're about to drink it in a minute.
He's got his little high C box with this little dinosaur chicken nuggets.
Well, that's what I get my kids for their lunches for school.
I know, me too. And their kids, it's the only thing you get them to eat was dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets. It's like, my gosh.
What are the things they call in the box that come with the meat and the crackers and the cookie, and it's a little thing to give the kids for
Lunchables?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay.
Lunchables.
Knew we could get it out of Roger.
He still has kids, you know.
Yeah.
20, still counting, but he's got them.
Oh, it's like 19 and counting.
You know, they're
All right,
they
guys.
should be doing a show a reality show for my family, you know.
Mm-hmm. So we're gonna dive right into with the holiday spirit. Catherine McPhee and David Foster have a new EP out called, you ready for this title?
Okay.
Christmas Songs.
Really?
You're a freaking genius, David Foster. That's the title?
Right.
Christmas Songs. Now, as we know, Catherine, who is 38, is married to David, who is 73.
Is he now? God.
And 73 and has a 20-month-old baby.
Good Lord.
Wow.
So for those out there who don't know, Catherine hasn't recorded in some time because she feels there's no place for her in the recording industry. David, on the other hand, has retired, except for this project they're working on, after he's produced, as we all know, mega artists for decades. Didn't he do stuff for Chicago too?
He did. Chicago 18 and 19. He's one of the guys, I will tell you this. He gets a bum rap of the kind of like this crazy, egotistical, producer kind of guy. But I've known him and I know him personally. And I'll tell you, man, I mean, there's been some tender moments behind all the music scene where we've lost friends, and people that we've worked with, and, sitting there with the guy in a real moment. He's just about as real as anybody, man. I mean, I was literally in a room with him one time, and tears were coming out of our eyes because we had lost somebody really dear to both of us. So he's, the music's one thing. Yeah. His productions, techniques are really intense. And Barbra Streisand was a great example. She was like, nobody's ever broken me down like David Foster. She's a lady that sings a song from top to bottom. And let me tell you something, man. She hated being picked apart, but when she heard the final product, she was like, man, I get it. And it wasn't about him not understanding what a great singer she was. At that point, she was like, wow. Because he'd be the guy that would be, and I watched him with, Chicago too, and all these other people. Yeah, he'd sing a line and it would be incredible. But he might go, hey, at the end of that, just get a little brother, hey, put a little breath at the end, or back off, hey. And like that, just those are just kind of lame examples, but those little tiny things, at the end of the day, really created what he did, and it would drive some people crazy. Like, what I'm doing isn't good enough. It's like, no, you're incredible, you're a legend. And so those were the kind of weird little things. But anyway,
he was a masterpiece. He's created so many masterpieces. He's talented. I mean, I wish I had an ounce, But
and Monica DeSanti. She said that she loves David Foster, and he doesn't hold back. And I watch the documentary often.
Yeah, the documentary is amazing. That one and Clive Davis is excellent. The documentary.
Yes, Clyde.
Ooh,
Clyde.
Clyde. Bonnie's partner.
Clyde.
Whitney was working with the wrong Clyde.
Here's the thing. And I'll let you get on with your thing, but from a music point of view, the difference between a David Foster and a Clyde Davis. And listen, Clyde, he's got a lot of good musical ideas and things like that. But David Foster, like, basically, David Foster is a musician that will really try and pull musical things out of a musician, where Clive Davis is more like a casting director. He knows if he gets the most incredible guys into the room, they're going to automatically create something magical for him. He doesn't need to micromanage them because he knows that those guys are going to, and Foster can do that with those guys too. Steve Lukather from Toto, Mike Landau, all the session guys from the 80s.
God, the best.
Yeah, Mike, the Picaros and all those guys.
Oh, yeah.
And they're all capable. But that's the difference between those kind of producers. Like Foster is hands-on, where those guys they're kind of like casting directors, they just get the right cast of like session guys, like Steve Lukather writing Beat It. Down, no. Clive was like, that's it, man. But he didn't write that line. He got Steve Lukather from Toto to do it. Yeah. And I'm not dogging Clyde Davis. Clyde's a great guy. But But my point is that, and that's fine. I mean, as long as you get the job done, who cares if you're the casting director and you cast a good cast and they pull it off? Movie people do that all the time, right? Directors, there's some that are hand-on that are,
he had an ear, David, and he knew how to use it.
Yeah.
He really did.
You got a gift, man.
A lot of people are saying, Catherine and David, the age difference, she was having a hard time in the record industry, that perhaps maybe she was just, So Catherine did say maybe down the line she'd record again, and that maybe David, her words, is the secret recipe.
Well, I would love to hear Catherine McPhee sing again.
Well, she was on Rockefeller.
American Idol.
She did live with David during the Rockefeller tree lighting. Did you know how they met?
Well,
I don't.
Coming,
right?
Was it on like one of the big voice shows or something?
No, it comes from my experience.
Oh,
they met. They met at a Halloween party.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Did you know that?
Did not.
She was bobbing for apples, and when she came up out of the water, she had David's wallet in her mouth.
Oh my god!
That just sounds like no. Are you sure that was at a Halloween party?
Yeah, no, it's just a joke I use in my act.
No, it's good.
I like
just
that.
Thinking that happens a lot more than just at Halloween parties, but
true.
I know. Trust me, I came up with a bunch of items in my mouth one time. Jay Leno, we know what happened to him back on November 12th. For those that don't, he suffered 2nd and 3rd degree burns on his face, chest, and hands when he was working on a steam engine underneath a car in his garage.
Oh, wow.
It's not funny that he got burned. I'm just laughing at the hands. 8 days later, he told People magazine he had a brand new face 8 days after it happened. And it's better than the one he had before.
Really?
Wow.
Oh, they must have burned his eyes too.
Hey, I get it. But what did they do anything interesting with this part? Like, I mean,
he still can't fold sheets, if that's what you're asking.
Do what?
So positive no. He did return right back to the stage 2 weeks after his whatever it is he had done. And he performed to a sold-out show in California. Let's hope with his new face, he actually will become funny now.
You didn't find him funny?
No. Not at all.
I love Icarelli, yeah.
Not at all.
Says it like it is.
Johnny Carson was the king.
He was great, man. Johnny was cool, man. You know what? I like, I like Conan O'Brien. Interesting. But you know what? Everybody's got their own personality. There's something different about him. Like you got like Steve Martin and then you got John Candy, right?
Yeah.
So which one do you love? Which one does it for you, So
that's
I
hard,
mean, yeah, you know what I mean? So you just some people like one or don't like the other. I mean, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Come on, man. I mean, good God.
Classic.
Yeah, John Candy. I was crushed when that guy died, man. It was
wasn't that the worst? Too young.
Hated it, man. Loved him too. Uncle Buck and all those cool movies.
Oh, come on. You think about it, and that was all John Hughes too, or Christopher Columbus. They did the Home Alone movies. It was Uncle Buck, Automobiles, 16
All right.
Candles.
Well, look at you.
Yeah, John Hughes was out of Chicago. He did all his shows on the North Shore because I grew up on the north side of Chicago. So I remember all the high schools that he filmed all those movies at. Yeah.
You grew up out in the north side of Chicago?
North suburbs, yes, sir.
Oh, wow. So you never met Leroy Brown from the south side?
No, I did not.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
That was corny, but I had to go there.
Of course.
All right. Drake is making waves, Drake the rapper, with a diamond necklace that is made of the rings he never used to get engaged. The necklace consists of 42 engagement rings made of 351.38 carat of diamonds.
What?
42.
Can you imagine?
It's a tribute to all the women he contemplated asking to marry him, but never happened.
Never happened.
I wonder how many rings that is.
42 women. He's 36 years old. Right? I'm 56, and I could barely get a man to buy me a Drake's cake, let alone a ring.
A Dollar General freaking gummy bear. Yeah. Wow. You know what? I have saved up all my beer tabs and everything, and I'm making a necklace out of it. It's different. It's not like rings, but like all the beer tabs that, you know,
a beer
from my
necklace.
Pabst Blue Ribbon. Oh my God.
Well, the only promise I get from a man is I'll be home in 5 to 10. So
no rings, though, right?
No rings. Well, I'm going to leave that, you know. Just in case Shadow's listening.
Hey, don't go there.
Yeah.
Okay.
We know what you're talking. We know what you're thinking, and we know what you're talking about.
Well, that was Roger. Roger brought that one up.
Well, that's
I know where he was going.
Yeah, he's got some personal experience there.
Some sad news. Stephen Boss, also known as DJ Twitch,
from Ellen,
has passed away at the age of 40. He was on before Ellen. He was on So You Think You Could Dance back in 2008, and he was on the Ellen Show for 9 years and became an executive producer down the line. And sadly, it was a suicide. They reported his death as a suicide. Gosh. So anybody out there that's going through struggles, if you or someone you know is struggling or in a crisis, call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org.
Yeah. You know what's crazy about
talent?
You know what's weird though is it's like I know several people that have lost, you know, loved ones or siblings to the same sort of exit. And when people get to that point, man, they're not calling anybody. It means that they've passed the point of like no return. You know, I was just talking to my brother about this today. Like we've all thought about driving off the cliff, but then I'm like, no, don't do that. I'll be the guy with the freaking plastic thing sitting in a wheelchair for the ride. Like you get something stops you from.
Yeah.
But when you know, and we've all, you know, whatever, I'll drive off Mulholland Drive here, you know, what would it be like? You know, I'm like, hell no, I'd roll 50 times and I'd be the guy that would survive that damn thing. And I'm claustrophobic. I'd be pinned in there. Yeah. So like when people do that, you know, it's like, and I'm not saying, of course, if anybody's feeling it, there are people that definitely need to reach out to those things. But I'm just saying, it's like, I think people at that point from what I gather from talking to people, they've just flipped, the switch is flipped where they're not even thinking about how it's going to affect their family or anybody else. They've lost all. And that's the sad part of it is that in order to pull that off, you know what I mean?
The sad part is they feel as though there's a stigma. They don't want to talk about it because they'll feel, you know, embarrassed. And, you know, you want to talk about it when you're here and you're not here. And I think, you know, he had a family and, you know, young children.
Yeah, he did.
And it's sad because you really don't want to put that on them either. But
but that's my point exactly. Imagine having young kids, and I'm sure there was a point where this guy would not do that, and who knows how long he was tormented and wouldn't do it just thinking about that. But when you get to that point where you actually do it, you're not thinking about that anymore. That's not even entering your conscience. No. You know, like wow. How's this going to affect everybody around me? That tells you how twisted you get that doesn't become a thing that prevents you from doing it. It tells you that you basically lost your mind at that point.
Well,
you know, it's sad overall, you know, I mean, and think about it. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you are a celebrity or you're just a regular person, you know, out there in the world. Mental illness is something that is very, you know, that's out there, more common than you would think. And, you know, if we don't acknowledge the signs, you know, I mean, like a couple weeks ago, we were talking about bullying, you know, Darren, and, you know, I mean, out there in the community, we need to pay attention to our loved ones, not ignore, because maybe they are reaching out, but they don't know how to reach out.
Right.
That's true. But what does that have to do with bowling? I'm trying to put this together. We were talking about bowling.
We're talking about bullying.
Oh, bullying.
Bullying. Yes.
Bullying.
Yes.
Right. Yes. Bullying.
Yes, bullying. And so we were, when we were talking about that a few weeks ago back, we were trying to, it's making ourselves aware of other people around us, not about us, trying to get the word out, but it's like, hey, you see this going on, you see this person struggling.
Yeah.
You need to be, we need to be out there and just, have empathy for people out there and be like, okay, this person's struggling. What can I do?
For sure. No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, sometimes the people that they are surrounding themselves with are self-absorbed and self-centered, and they don't really pay attention to the signs.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we wish him well, but if you could go on TikTok, we wish his family well. If you can go on TikTok and check out his dance videos, they are so uplifting and fun, and they get me going through the day. So
right on, man.
There you go.
Well, that is it, boys.
All right.
Nice to see you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy
Or as
holidays.
I say in Florida, happy holidays.
See.
Well, you know what? You have yourself a great holiday. Whatever holiday you celebrate.
Yes.
And because how many holidays do we have in December? I mean, we've got what?
Hanukkah.
Yom
We
Kippur.
got Christmas. We have is Kwanzaa in January or December?
I think it's December, isn't it?
I think it may be.
Okay.
I'm still laughing at that.
Darren, you're so funny.
I don't know why.
You're so funny, Darren.
I'm like straight. I'm sober. I don't even do anything weird. And I'm sitting there laughing for 5 minutes.
All right. Sue says happy holiday.
Happy holidays,
Monica,
Sue.
happy holidays.
Happy
Philip,
holidays,
he just says
Monica.
Merry Christmas.
DDA, I saw you say him earlier because, I still can't chat back. Roger's got me in prison.
All righty, Ike. Thank you so much, man. You take care.
Bye, gentlemen.
All righty. So there you go. That is the Hollyweird report.
Perfect. It was a good one.
It really was.
Kind of tame, but it was good. It was still fun. You see, it can be tame and incredible still. Ike really knows how to deliver tame or really insane. See that? Tame or insane. Oh, see that way he did.
So we have an amazing guest tonight. And he is actually on the phone. He's not on video. So this is a first for our show. So I got to figure out how to coordinate all this, putting him on the phone, pulling up images and all that stuff, all the technical fun stuff of the show. But, you remember him. He was the voice of American Top 40. He's Shadoe Stevens. He was also on Hollywood Squares. Did you know he was the former program director and DJ at KMET-FM?
I think something rings a bell with that. Not 100%, but something's jarring in my memory for that.
Okay. He was also the first program director and DJ at the world famous K-Rock.
Okay, yeah.
He was the voice for the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. Okay. And he was also the voice of the Antenna TV network.
And that's just a short list. This guy's done so much. Let's bring him in here, man. Let's just get this guy in here because he's going to be, he's not on video tonight, but he's going to be here with us and you're going to have audio. We're going to have a good conversation. Yep. I'm excited about getting this guy in there.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. So let's, without a further ado, let's bring him on the screen. Hang on 1 second here.
No problem.
And Shadoe Stevens, are you there?
Yeah, I was just bobbing for apples.
Oh,
well, thank you.
He caught on to all that, didn't you?
Hi, Shadoe. Get on to all that.
It was a good joke.
I love it, man. Yeah, it was incredible. It was great. Look at how good he looks in that picture, too. Look at that hair, man. That is something else, isn't it? God.
So, Shadoe, welcome to the
everyone
show.
Listening tonight will have the time of their lives. Probably the most important show that you will hear tonight
Yes.
And you'll be buzzed, bombed, cranked, tweaked, gacked, and baked. By the end, you'll be going, hey.
Tweaked, baked,
Nice
gacked.
cookery. Is that foam?
Those are all some great 80s terms. Gacked, tweaked. I love it, man. That's Hollywood.
Yes.
Love it. Hey,
You
Shadow.
also have an acting correct. You also have an acting career. You were in Dave's World and also the movie TRAXX, to just name a couple.
Yeah, I did a few things. The Dave's World was on for 4 years. It was a top 10 show for a long time. Terrific show with Harry Anderson and Meshack Taylor, and a really well written, very funny show. I'm actually surprised that it isn't in reruns. It was terrific. It was a nice phase, and that was while I was doing American Top 40, which was on in 110 countries to 1 billion people a week. And
Incredible.
That was pretty fabulous. They
Yeah,
just
man.
fly us around the world to promote it. How tough is that?
That's
So
incredible.
you're like the Ryan Seacrest now, right? Back then, jumping in and doing all these.
I think it was actually. I think the reason I got the job, not because I'd been on radio and I started K-Rock and I made KMET #1, and then I left radio in a huff and went to television, and then was doing Hollywood Squares, and it was the biggest show of the year. And because I had this, Ryan Seacrest kind of visibility, and they're like, oh, and you've been in radio too. Well, that might be a good bet for taking over for Casey Kasem.
Yes.
But I'll tell you, that was a rough transition, because everything I'd ever done, and before and after, has always been humor based. It's always been satire and parody and tongue in cheek and American. I was stepping in to the shoes of the most earnest man in the history of the world.
No kidding.
And I couldn't do that. Recording the first show of the first 4-hour show took 18 hours.
Did it really that long?
Rewrite every sentence. Yeah, I couldn't. I mean, how could I do? Keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars, and do it with a straight face. So I had to come up with things like, remember, kids, the world is your oyster, and if you can't find your pearl, you can always have lunch. Bye-bye,
That's great. Can always have lunch.
Thank you very much.
That's great.
Hey, the Wild Child Show, everybody. We'll be carving moccasins out of silk a little later.
Moccasins. Hey, Shadow, our guy Icavelli that opens the show with us, he wanted to be on here so bad. He said, please tell Shadow I'm a huge fan. He was our guy that does the Hollywood gossip stuff with us in the beginning. He couldn't.
He's terrific. He's terrific. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. So.
Yeah, he's funny, man. He's a great guy. And you know what's interesting?
Around the world or the United States, and does a show called 50 Shades of Gay.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah. Incredible. Yeah.
I'm sure it's hilarious.
Oh, it's a crack up. I love it.
Yeah, it's funny stuff, man. It's right up your alley. Humor
and satire.
Humor and satire.
More important. Nothing.
Hey, Shadow.
Yeah,
I was
ready for the next question. Go ahead.
It's actually not a question. It's another compliment for you. So I was talking to my brother on the phone earlier, and he knows that I do these things weekly. And we've had like a lot of people on here of pretty good stature and status, man. I'm in Nashville, but I pretty much lived out my, 80s, 90s in Hollywood. I was a Hollywood hairdresser and worked on a lot of MTV videos and stuff, and had publishing deals, music stuff. But growing up, I grew up in San Diego, and Shotgun Tom Kelly was the DJ in San Diego who ended up going up to LA. You probably know exactly who. And
I know him very well.
Yeah. So Shotgun Tom Kelly, later on in like 86, my brother Jason ended up, we moved to LA in the early 80s, and my brother ended up replacing Peter Cetera as the tenor singer for the band Chicago. Right. So, So when I was talking to him today on the phone, he goes, "So what are you doing?" I go, "Well, I'm doing another podcast tonight. We got Shadoe Stevens." And, it's funny because these guys that play music, like my brother that end up in these bands, these guys really credit people like you and DJs and stuff because you spun the records, and you guys were the ones out there really pushing these, but all the stuff that influenced most of these guys, before they even got in there. So he goes, "Please tell that guy that I said I love him." And he was like a big kid. Same with Shotgun Tom Kelly. These guys hang out and do charity stuff together, and they all have a similar background to yours too, as far as being a friend of Bill and all that stuff. So, well, my brother does at least. So, he just wanted me to tell you that he really respects you and loves what you've done, and you are an influence there. So I wanted to at least throw that out there.
Well, that's the thing about radio. It was, before there was a social media, before everybody could get everything instantly, that it was the soundtrack to people's lives. It was the music that made your life go, got you through everything. It was social media. It was how you found out about music and how you found out about movies and what was happening on television. And it was a real big deal. And people made it exciting. There were real exciting periods in radio.
Yeah, there were. You know what I remember? I remember in the like late 60s, going into the early 70s, I was like, a young teen, and I was in San Diego. We were listening to KCBQ and, B100, and that's where Shotgun Tom Kelly was on there, and call in and win a skateboard or concert tickets and be the fifth caller. Those were fun times. Well, the one thing before they actually started, separating like genres of music, like, here's KGB that came in San Diego. This is the new classic rock station. Before that, you'd listen to like radio and it would be like, okay, here's an Earth, Wind and Fire song. And then all of a sudden here comes a Foghat song. And then the next one's Marvin Gaye. And then the next one would be like Kiss. And then, so you're kind of forced to listen to a lot of stuff. And even if you thought you disliked it, sooner or later, some of that sunk into your DNA, man, and you started getting it, so it was kind of an interesting time.
Yeah.
That's, you remember those radio days where you're going, oh, I got to get through this song. It's not one of my favorites. Next thing you know, you catch yourself singing it all the time. Right. So.
Yeah. Well, that was the nice thing about really well-run radio, where they put a lot of time into finding the best of the best. And, and that was the whole idea when I started K-Rock, was all cutting edge, all new music, all up, all party, all the time. And it was really revolutionary at the time.
Yeah.
And it went through a number of iterations. I just put up a few weeks ago, somebody found a recording of one of the shows I did on K-Rock in 1977, when I went back to consult them and try and get them to the next iteration. I had already started my production company, and I was doing commercials for like the Blues Brothers movie and 48 Hours and Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And,
oh man.
Yeah.
And at that time, I had launched K-Rock before, but then I quit because there were financial problems, and then the whole staff quit, and then the station went off the air for a year and a half. And I went back and I went over to KMT, and it came to number one. And then I left KMT and went to my production company, and they came back and asked me to come back to K-Rock, which I did through the end of the 70s. And I remember it as just being not as good as the first incarnation. When it launched, it was phenomenal.
Wow.
I remembered it as being sort of like okay, because nobody was getting paid, and the only reason I went there is because I told them I'll come back and I'll do shows, but I'll sell all the time and keep all the money. And I had all these clients, and they went okay. So I was able to make real terrific income by just doing everything. But I went back, so they found this recording, and it's about an hour and a half long, and about the birth of K-Rock. And so I tell the story of how it started and how they hired me and what happened and about going off the air and then coming back. And then there is this whole showcase, which is on YouTube. It's called The Birth of K-Rock.
Oh wow!
It is.
You gotta check that out.
And I put a video to it. I made it, visualized so that it would be more engaging to watch and listen to. But just the music alone, and it's everything from the Rolling Stones to Queen to Taj Mahal to cutting edge punk rock. It was just terrific.
That's incredible, man.
So much better than I remembered it. So it was very rewarding. And this is just like a few weeks ago.
Wow, that's crazy. I
Isn't
want
that
to
funny?
say though, as a child myself, I grew up enjoying radio. When I was 12 years old, I called a talk radio station and talked to Ernie Banks. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I could talk to Ernie Banks, I could talk to anybody. And I wanted to be in radio. And so that's where my passion in radio began as a child. And then, in my high school, I had a great teacher, Del Kennedy Fader. And she was, and I learned a lot about radio through high school. We had a great high school program. And then, after that, I just, that was my passion. That's what I wanted to do. Where did you find radio as your passion when you started?
I've told this story a million times to people, but let me give you it in a nutshell. It's very weird.
Okay.
When I was 8 years old, my dad had a tape recorder, and I heard a song on the radio that was funny. That was made up of pieces of songs that they told a story to, and I thought, I can do that. And I figured out how to do that on my dad's tape recorder. I'd tell a little bit of the story, and then I'd cut in a rock and roll song for, like a chorus. And then I'd go on with the story by starting and stopping. So that when you played it all through, it was my whole story with a bunch of songs made up. And it was so much fun. And
wow.
My uncle, who owned some radio stations, heard that I did this, and he sent me a gift, and the gift was called a wireless transformer, and it was a kit that you had to solder together that would allow you to broadcast from
I remember
one room
those.
to the other. And it was a revelation for me. First of all, I was good at following directions, so now I'm like 10 years old, and I put it all together, and it worked, and it was magic. So I went down to the local TV shop, and I asked them how to soup it up. And he showed me what to do. And then he said, and you got to put up a big antenna. I'm like, oh, okay. So, at 10 years old, I climbed to the top of my 3-story house.
Oh, God.
with a wire in my teeth and a hammer in my pocket. And hung upside down and hammered a loop into the side of the house, attached the wire to it with a little insulator, then went off to the backyard and climbed up to the top of an evergreen tree and attached the other side. So I had a 100-foot antenna. And then I was able to broadcast from the 3rd floor of my house, and it could be heard a mile in every direction. So
incredible.
Really cool. We would put on an LP, and then we'd go out in the car to see how far we could hear it. Oh my God, we can hear it way out here.
Nice.
So great. So then I'm walking down the street, and this is Jamestown, North Dakota, a little town in the Midwest. And they were doing a show on the street, the man on the street, and he'd interview people walking along. And he said, "Hi, well, what do you like?" I went, "Oh, I like art and radio." Radio, really? And so I tell him about my little pirate radio station, and he's fascinated. He thinks that's just great. He said, "Well, you should come down and see us, and we should put you on the air and give you a show." I went, Oh, sure. So at 11, they hired me and put an ad in the paper, "World's Youngest Disc Jockey," Saturday morning, 11 o'clock.
Wow.
Did that for a couple of years. And, and it was probably terrible, but I have a picture of it from the paper, and it's in my studio right now. And I can see myself at 11 years old with my big stack of 45s and a microphone.
Oh, boy.
That was the beginning. And I continued to do that through high school while I also did art. I started painting monster T-shirts in a mall, and I got really good at it. I would copy.
You're a graphics designer too, aren't you?
The what?
You're a graphics designer now too, aren't you?
Yeah, I do art as well. I've had some showings at different galleries. One of them is called Gallery Michael on Rodeo in Beverly Hills, and I'm doing one in Sedona at a great big gallery
Oh,
in
wow.
March. And I've got a bunch of different things. I do multimedia work, and it's I do painting and things, but I like to do things that are more like optical illusions and things, and statement-based art. And so if you go to shadoeart.com, you can see a bunch of my artwork. And I've come up with a new series called Iconic Kinetic. It's kaleidoscopic expressionism, and it is like taking like Marilyn Monroe, pictures of Marilyn Monroe when she was young and full of hope and more beautiful than anybody, and making them into a kaleidoscopic image.
Nice.
It's all Marilyn up, down, in, out, sideways, upward, like you're looking at it through a kaleidoscope.
Wow.
And it's pretty trippy and fun to look at, and people have really liked it. So I just did one with Marlon Brando, and another one.
Really? That's cool.
Shohei Ohtani. The Shohei Ohtani piece is going to be huge. I'm going to do that like probably 5 feet tall and 8 feet or something.
So as you said, shadoearts.com or art.com? Shadow Art.
Yeah, Shadoe Art, ShadoeArt.com.
Okay, art, yeah.
All right, so
like this big piece of mine.
So Philip on Facebook wants to know what's keeping you busy these days.
The thing I'm doing right now, I am more proud of than anything of all the things I've done in my career. I've done a lot of, I did a lot of television, I did a lot of advertising, I did a lot of radio. But at the beginning of COVID, I thought, well, I've got this elaborate studio, and I can do anything I can think of, and it's audio, video, or artwork. And I thought, I'm going to be in here for I don't know how long. And everybody was freaking out and getting depressed and afraid. And I thought, I've got to come up with something that I can put out there that's funny and uplifting. And I started a project called Mental Radio, and it's at mentalradio.net. And there's also now a free app for both Apple and for Google Play. And it's turned into over 11 hours of stories and adventures and, serials with cliffhanger endings. It's all funny, but it all is, the purpose of it is really about getting ahead of your mind or getting behind of your mind by taking action. And it's making fun of being afraid. So, there are these wonderful jingles like, don't forget the world is ending. Don't forget to be afraid. Don't forget to keep pretending you got it made. The best years are behind you. That sort of thing.
You're keeping that satire going, aren't you, Shadoe?
That what?
You're keeping your satire going. You're trying to keep that humor going for you.
It's the only thing that, a sense of humor is the only sense that makes any sense, and the only sense that makes the other senses worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that.
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
It's, you got to make fun. And a famous philosopher, psychiatrist named Viktor Frankl wrote about this in Man's Search for Meaning. He said, if you can ridicule your phobias, you can rise above them by breaking the chain of phobia creates the reaction, which reinforces the phobia, which creates the reaction. And using humor and irony, man can rise above his phobias by breaking the chain, by making fun of them. And I thoroughly believe that. So I'll tell these stories. Like one of the characters, there's all these different characters, and one of them is Dixon Ticonderoga, a writer looking for trouble. And in one episode, Dixon is looking for hope, and he goes through the city and gets on a train and gets off the train and gets on a biplane and flies over the skies and ends up landing in a cow pasture, and then is picked up by a woman on a horse and rides to the end of the world. And at a lofty peak at the meridian between melancholy and basket case, he finds an outpost. The pinnacle, cut the mustard, deli, and pickle. He goes inside the deli, and he says, "I'm looking for the Oracle." She says, "Oh, Morty, he's over in the deli." So he goes and finds Morty, and Morty says, "Have a sandwich. The Zuckerberg half-baked pastrami, the Elon Musk chopped liver, or the Bezos barbecue brisket. But for you, I think the Dalai Lama club." Fine. And then it turns into a Mel Brooks movie. It's actually really funny.
Oh, that's good stuff.
And you can find that at mentalradio.net, or you can download Mental Radio on your favorite app store.
Yeah, I'll tell you another one.
Go ahead.
A man falls into a manhole in the pouring rain. And as he grabs for the wall, a tear falls from his eye and lands on a slug, who flicks it off onto a leech, who twitches, and it lands in the mouth of a rat, who bares its teeth and smiles a satisfied rat smile, and a beam of light from the moon strikes the sparkle on the rat's pointed teeth and ricochets it into the sky, burning a symbol on a cloud. A symbol that can only mean one thing. Brock Stillwell, a square-jawed jackhammer of a man in a plaid shirt, sees the signal, and Brock rides to the rescue. It's pretty wild, pretty funny, and it's been called audio acid. It's been called word jazz, and it is immersive. So if you listen with earphones, the better the earphones, the better the experience. The sounds come from behind you and move around in your head, and it still works if you just listen on your phone or if you listen on your computer. But if you listen with earphones, it's designed to actually be cinematic.
Oh, really? Head. That's cool.
And the music sounds just like a movie. The guy who did all the music is just a genius. And he does all the stuff, and it sounds like John Williams or Morricone or like the who's who of the greatest composers doing film music. It's very epic and very tongue-in-cheek and not wacky. All the characters are performed real straight, and all the voice actors, there's only like a handful of them, about 8, but they do everything, and they're just brilliant.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait to hear that. Yeah, it sounded like an acid trip. You're not kidding, man.
It's 11 hours of there's 24 chapters now.
Well, that's about how much time it would take.
Weeks to do. Go ahead.
I was going to say, man, it sounded like an acid trip just listening to you tell me. It was like, wow. So if it lasts 12 hours, that's about as long as a tab of 4-way window payment lasts. But I haven't done that stuff since, the 70s. But that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's about right. That's about right. You could just stay in the zone the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. And you can just put the headphones on like we used to do with like the Wall by Pink Floyd. You just lay on the ground and put the headphones on and just listen to the whole thing. Hey, Shadoe, one thing I wanted to say that was really cool is like when you were young and you were 10 and you figured out how to get your little broadcasting thing going, we have so many tools at our hands today, and almost sometimes it hinders me, playing music or recording. There's, you're trying to find a reverb. There's thousands of them, and there's new things. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I loved about you telling that story about being a young child and figuring out how to broadcast this record and see how far you could get it. You see, we kind of did the same crazy stuff. Like when we were young, we didn't have multi-track recording things. I think when we were young, like a 4-track, like reel-to-reel tape had just come out. But before that, we would grab like a little cassette deck and we would like play a guitar part and sing something. And then we had a second cassette deck. So we'd push play on one, and what we just recorded would be coming out of those little crappy speakers. And then we would hit record on the other one, the second, cassette player. And by the way, we got those at Radio Shack. These were not like hi-fi. Radio Shack was our freaking thing. We bought mics there, everything. Radio Shack was our go-to, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And so
they should still be in business.
What's that?
Screwed that one up. They should still be in business.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah, man, that's where we got all of our first stuff, and we figured things out too. So that was the way we multi-tracked. We would just record something live on one of those little, they were like kind of like, these little, you remember those recorders, man? They just had like 4 buttons on the top, and they were, a little speaker.
Oh, absolutely. But you had the pause button that you could stop, and then you could do magical things.
Exactly. But for us, we would play a song all the way through and sing it and record it. If there was 2 of us, we'd get, all that on there. And then we would hit play on that one and record on the second one. So that's how we multi-tracked back then. We didn't have multi-tracks. So we would now have what was coming out of the first speaker playing the entire song now that we were working on or writing. And then we would hit record on the second at the same time as the other one was playing, and it would pick up the audio from that. And we would distance ourselves enough so it would blend us in recording with the original track onto the new track that we're playing live, but you still, you know what I'm saying? So we figured this, it was like,
I do. And actually at the beginning of K-Rock, where there was no money, but there were basically two track machines. They were MPEG machines. They were really good machines, but there were two track machines.
Yeah.
And we created magic. If you listen to that Birth of K-Rock, all that production that I did during that period was all done on two tracks.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that includes jingles and all kinds of things that were done, like Flo and Eddie, the guys that started the Turtles, were friends of mine, and I produced a show with them called Flo and Eddie by the Fireside. And they would come in and we'd do promos every week, and there would be new jingles and new songs, and it was hilarious and wonderful, and it was just like what we're only limited by our imaginations. We just have to figure out, if we have some kind of tool, what can we do that's really interesting and unusual.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I remember that too. Yeah, so I remember those 2 tracks. So yeah, it was, and my dad's a musician, and it drove him crazy because the first song and the first hit that he ever played bass on was a song called, it was by a band called The Association. So he played on Along Comes Mary, and he played on, what was that other big hit that they had? Along Comes Mary, and I should know it. I'm drawing a blank.
Windy, I think, was one of them.
Anyway, he told me, he goes, man, back then we had to share tracks, so him and the drummer would be on a track, or, and then, the guitar player and this guy would be on a track because they didn't have all the tracks. This guy, Gary Paxton, that produced that, they were doing it in the living room of someone's home in Hollywood. So my dad was like, oh my gosh, so one guy got a really good take. My dad was going, oh man, it drove me crazy. I'd be driving down the road, and I'm finally on the radio as a session guy, and I'm listening to myself on this big hit that just they're playing over and over and over. And he goes, I just hear this one note. It wasn't a bad note, but he goes, it was a note that, he goes, I wish I hadn't played, but he goes, it's not like multi-tracks now where you can just go in there, punch me in there and fix it. He goes, but Gary was like, no, we're going to live with that one. So he goes, I just had to listen to the song all the time. I go, that bummed you out? And he's like, yeah, it was weird. I was fixated on that. And he goes, then 20 years later, I'm in a grocery store and I hear the music version come on him. And I'm thinking, oh, that guy certainly had to fix that freaking note. And he goes, and I heard the weird note in the music version. He goes, and it really irritated me. I'm like laughing, just going, you know what? But that was the magic of not having all the tracks. And, same with all the other great music that was recorded. You hear the drums all the way panned to the right, on some of the old records, and the separation was incredible, and so there's some magic to that. And then, also the initial feelings of just doing things and not being able to fix them, creates that magic. Old music was done that way.
Well, part of that happened back in the day when there were so many limitations, and like you said, and you listen to Jimi Hendrix, and maybe the drum is over there, or Cream, and the guitar is completely over on the right, and the drums over on the left, and the voices like maybe cross over, like some of the. What I always, and this goes back to K-Rock, but it was using the 3D space of stereo and moving things around in that space. I was doing it way back then. Wow. And again, you'll hear those on some of those promos. They're quite funny.
Yeah.
And it's all about like making it 3D so that it moves around in space. And if you have speakers that are wide apart, they're moving across the room. And I've never understood why people didn't use that more.
Yeah,
You
you
do
know
that on
what?
that, obviously.
Maybe it was too much for them. Like, hey, guys like you are ready to try anything at any time, and that's the magic right there. It's like, hey, it's a worst case scenario. It's like, let's do it. Let's have fun. It was fun experimenting. That was what it was all about. Was
Well,
just
you had to, to be competitive. That's the thing that's happened with modern radio is that big companies own it, and there's no competition. So people don't try to make it better, and they don't have to compete with each other.
It's all about
Yeah.
making the money right now.
That makes people. Yeah, well, it's like lowest common denominator. How cheaply can we get something done, and what else can we cut?
And that's what I miss about
Instead of
radio.
What can we do?
Because back in the day, you always had your personalities, live radio. You used to call in, talk to the DJ, because that's what I did. When I was a kid, I was like winning every contest every hour at every radio station. They all knew who I was, right? When I was a kid. And now it's like you want to call the DJ, you get a recording. It says press 1, you can leave your request. Or just text us your request, and you lose that connection. There's not that one-on-one medium in radio like radio used to be back in the day. You used to love your favorite disc jockeys, and all the morning shows. Now the morning shows are all syndicated; they're all over the place. And it doesn't matter what city you drive, you're going to hear the same guy doing the morning show. You lose the whole localness, and that's what I do not like about radio these days. And that's why I like doing this show, because I can't do what I'm doing now on the radio because it's all voice tracked. Everything's voice tracked these days.
It's true. They've just taken the soul out of it, and that's why they're in trouble. Why everybody's going bankrupt and companies are going under, and they just can't compete with everything that is everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know any young people who listen to radio. Not any. My
Yeah,
daughters are, like in their early 30s, and they don't listen to radio.
No, we listen to Spotify now, or Apple Music, or podcasts, or whatever.
Podcast.
Yeah,
exactly.
We're using alternative or mental radio. We're listening to mental radio now.
Yes, now you have a valid option for something really entertaining. It's entertainment that doesn't sound like anything else.
No, that does sound entertaining, though. That sounds fun.
It does. It really does.
Okay, here's another one. Okay, I have a character named Guy Good. This is a Western.
Okay.
Guy Good is sort of like the Lone Ranger. And Guy Good and his sidekick, Gabby. And they come out of the saloon, and they meet Lemon Souffle, owner of the saloon. And he says, I got a feeling there's a flare-up on a rampage over in Decadence. We got to put the whammy on it before it takes down the whole caboodle. He says, a flare-up? And he says, yeah, a lot of gunk build up among the whackouts and the flatulence. Ah, yeah, and the puffed ups and the outlines. You can smell them coming. The stink of too much and a hint of skunk makes you fit to be tired. That's what I'm talking about. Lemon Souffle, owner of the Bucket of Blood.
Oh man,
That's a Guy Good adventure. Now there's something like 15 Guy Good adventures. There's 17 Dixon Ticonderogas. There's a half dozen Buck Skylark. Not Buck Skylark, Brock Stillwell.
Mm-hmm.
I get my characters mixed up. And like 35 other little one-offs that are also quite funny and very original. A lot of parody and satire commercials and things like that. I think you'll like it.
Yeah, awesome. It sounds great, man. I got to compliment you on one other thing, though, that's not related to all that stuff. And that is, man, I was watching some videos of you and, checking some things out, man. And you have a beautiful family and your daughters and the way that you've, navigated your life and been able to, me growing up in a big, entertainment family. It's not always easy to be present and participate, on the level that it looks like that you've been able to pull off, with your family. And I've heard you talk about them just being with you and your wife talking about travel. They traveled the world with you. That's incredible, man. I mean, that's not the norm for kids to be like with the parents all the time. So, man, that's incredible, Shadoe. It really is like, it's beyond like entertainment. That's like
I look, we've been sending out our holiday cards,
every year we do a different piece of art that we send out to all these people, and
yeah.
I wonder how I got lucky enough to be among all of this beauty. My daughters are Beyonce beautiful, and they, you know, like my youngest daughter looks like my older daughter, who has 2 children of her own, who are 4 and 1, and they both look like her, and so it's Ava and Winnie look like Amber, who looks like China, who looks like my wife Beverly, and I wonder, how did I get in there? Thank God, thank God.
Right.
Amber does have my fingernails, and I'm
fingernails.
Now they're beautiful,
That's
and
it.
your wife's beautiful too, and their spirits are incredible, man. And you know, I mean, as eccentric and as artistic as you are, man, I'm sure that, you know, it's nice to get off, you know, stage and just relax and be around somebody, you know, like your children and your wife, that you can, because people say that all the time. You know, we come from performing too. They're like, do these guys make you laugh all the time? I'm like, no, they decompress. They get home. They're normal. You know, it's like, you know, they're real people, you know, so. But at the end of the day, I just wanted to just compliment you on that. And I'm sure, you know, some of the choices that you've made in your own life years ago probably helped that process quite a bit too. So that's nice, man.
Yeah, we've always been very close, and we did, you know, we went everywhere. I took them to Japan and to South Africa, and you know, everywhere we went with American Top 40, you know, the kids were with us, including a safari in South Africa, which I almost died on.
Wow.
I got salmonella poisoning at a restaurant in Cape Town, and it came on when we were on the middle of a safari called Mala Mala. We're in the middle of nowhere, and they're out seeing the elephants and the giraffes and, you know, all of the things in nature, and I am in throwing up, and it was a mess. And finally, my whole body was shaking, and they rushed me on a private plane to Johannesburg.
Wow.
And took me right to a doctor, and he said, go to emergency immediately. Went to emergency, and they tried to put needles in my arms 18 times, and they couldn't find a vein. And I'm screaming on each one. It's like, oh my God, this is so painful. And they said I was like a half hour away from death. I was so dehydrated.
Good Lord.
I finally got through, but I was in the hospital for like a week.
That's insane. That must have been scary for your entire family. Thank God they didn't try and get you over to that hospital on a zebra. Good Lord.
Thank God. Thank God for that. Or a hyena.
Or a sloth. What about a sloth? That would have. I'm just trying to make fun of this.
Probably
like you said, we need to. Do what?
Yeah. Well, you know, somehow I lived through many, you know, dramatic moments in my life, but somehow I'm still here, and I guess that means I'm supposed to do something.
Yeah, if we made it through the 80s in Hollywood, man, we're okay.
You're fine.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean, I think back on those days and go, good God, what the hell was I doing at 5 a.m. driving on the 101 from the 405 from freaking Malibu? Like, oh, good God, my goodness.
What were you thinking?
Yeah. And I wasn't.
All right,
You're
Shadoe.
thinking, hey, nice shoes. Is that phone? Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Shadoe, I really appreciate you taking some time. I mean, you've been awesome, dude. As like I said, growing up in radio, and just, you know, and I've watched you over the years, and you know, and just like you're one of my icons that I've grown up in, you know, and admired over the years. You know, along with you know. There's a lot of radio greats out there. You know, you got Rick Dees out there, Chicago. You had Eddie, my friend Eddie V from Jobo and Eddie V from P96 in Chicago. You've got Scott Shannon, the disc jockey out of New York. I mean, there's a lot of great.
You know, all these guys.
Oh yeah, you know, it's such a, you know, it's awesome to be able to see how radio was, and you know, and respect how radio was back in the day, because it's a different game now. and sadly,
Yeah.
but I do have a lot of respect for you, and I am so blessed that you took your time and to join us on the show today. So thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. You guys are a lot of fun. Keep up the good work, and happy holidays.
And happy holidays to you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
bro.
Alrighty. So there you go. Shadoe Stevens joining us on the Roger the Wild Child show. And
wow.
What a great guy.
Incredible, man. I mean, that guy's like barely even like, he's just like, the guy's stories could just be endless. You know what I mean? He's just like done so much. I mean, we just like we had 45 minutes there roughly with this guy. And it was like, wow, it seemed like it just went by like in 5 minutes, like,
yeah.
And that's fine. I mean, but what an incredible guy, man. And I'll tell you, seriously, I mean, that dude, watching those videos of him and really getting a little bit more insight on his personal life, it's like, yeah, from an entertaining standpoint, yeah, the guy's definitely up there, iconic. But I'm telling you, man, I think I was just equally as blown away by just watching this guy with his family and the love that they have for each other. Because growing up in Hollywood, growing up around famous people, we're don't get me wrong, we're all there, and we're super tight too. But there's something about raising those young kids and having them there. Roger's left me here by myself, by the way. He's cut himself out. So it's just us, everybody out there. Let me see here. He'll be back in a minute. Let me see. Is Phil DeGrave still in there? Phil, are you still online? Let's get some chat questions. Oh, Monica. Yeah, Loma Squares, where we got those things. There's Roger. There he is. Don't worry. I took over.
Figured as much you would.
I was like talking, then I go, oh, I'm by myself with everybody here. Hey. So yeah. But yeah, incredible, man. Incredible guy, man. And you know what? He knows all those guys because you're radio. So you guys understand something that even I don't understand. I'm a musician, so we get kind of the disc jockey thing as far as like going, wow, thank you. There was an influence from you guys spinning records that influenced us as musicians, but it's different. It's not like you and another disc jockey going, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I kind of do, but nobody's going to understand it like you guys,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing about radio, though. I mean, it's like that in life now in general. I mean, because of technology and things and people monopolizing, it's like, I'll use like Vegas, for example. Remember back in the day when all the owners, everybody owned their own little casino in Vegas, and now it's like a monopoly. You got two, big giants, MGM and Caesars. And that's when like the buffets were like maybe $2.99 back in the day, and you got 99-cent breakfast. But no, now it's like you go to the buffet, it's like $25-$30 to go eat. It's not, and when
I guess more people were binging than gambling. So they were like, we got to cut this buffet off, Philip DeGrave, he's a guy that would do some damage. He likes to do his damage on the food. I'm telling you.
All right, so we got a great show coming up on Sunday. It's the Nashville show. It's our country Christmas. Darren will be joining us, Justin, Elise, and Baby Daisy, myself. And then we've got about 15 live performances. So it's going to be a great holiday event. 3 hours long. Radio station is in San Diego. Suck.
See, because he knows, man. He knows. Yeah. He grew up with me. He grew up with KCBQ, B100, KGB, all the same stations, man. Yeah, they probably all, But, we sound like a bunch of old men. Get out of my yard. You know what I mean? Everything evolves, and the young kids like to hear all their new stuff. And it was probably the same thing when we were listening to classic rock and heavy metal. Our parents are probably going, man, they don't know what they're missing out with Lawrence Welk. Listen to this garbage.
Lawrence Welk.
I'm just telling you, man, and Bing Crosby, listen to what these kids are forced into. And the Beatles, it's like, wow, look at those weird guys with those haircuts, That was really all the Glenn Miller and all the big band stuff before those guys' 40s. So it's the same.
Philip goes, grumpy old men in the chat.
Get out of my yard, you little punk. Yeah. That's my brother Todd's one of his best friends, man. Todd was, Todd's the godfather to his children. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So these guys go back. They're karate buddies.
Gotcha.
And Monica, just, she's another local Point Loma. There she is.
Yep. So, all right, guys, we will see you on Sunday, and then we're going to take a little hiatus and come back in February with brand new episodes. And I'm going to be launching a brand new show, hopefully in January. It's called Love on the Rocks. And so it's going to be a completely different show. And we're going to talk about love, romance, dating, different types of relationships.
Everything you know nothing about, but that'll be
exactly. So so you're going to get advice from me. And so you'll be able to call in, get your love advice. We'll have some love experts on the show. So it'll be fun. It'll be a fun, completely
out,
different
man.
show.
You don't need to have the experience. Just fake them out. Just make stuff up. Hey.
So Love on the Rocks will debut in 2023. So be ready for that.
Oh, yeah, because Monica's asking, when's that going to be?
Yep. 2023.
2023.
Yeah,
well, that's a big...
January or February.
Oh, January or February. Okay, yeah, because you're saying 2023.
That's
like, okay.
Yeah, because it's like we're at the end of December, dude. We're at
but
the
you
end
never
of
know. I mean, people say that stuff, and they're like, yeah, it'll be in 2023. It's like, well, at the first part or the last part, or what part are you talking about? Anyway, no big deal.
So I want to thank our guest, Shadoe Stevens, for being on the show today. Also, Ike Avelli with the Hollyweird Report. For Darren Sheft, I'm Roger the Wild Child. You guys have yourself a great week, and we'll see you on Sunday.